Hey, welcome back to the Crabby Dice. Today we're going to be looking at Coimbra. So this is going to be just the rules and setup video. If you want to play through my thoughts, click on the link below. So what is the theme to this game? Actually, I have no idea. We're in Portugal. We're going to be recruiting characters to try to gain influence in 4 different tracks. The game is completely themeless, so it's very mechanically driven, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Alright, before we start, please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. That'll be amazing. Let's get started with the setup right away. Alright, we'll start off by laying out our gorgeous game board in the middle of the table. We're going to put out our favorite tiles on the top of the city over here. So start off with the zeros and work your way up to the 3 crown favorite tiles. We have our little cap, die cap here. Just put it above where the 2 is. That's an option you'll be able to get later in the game. Alright, let's set up some of the stuff on our game board here. We have our monasteries, alright, so they're all marked either with a 1 or 2 and a 3, as you can see on the game board here. There's twice as many as you actually use in the game for every single number, so give them a shuffle and then randomly flip them over where they belong. Alright, do this as quick as possible. You'll do the same thing with the 2s and 3s. I won't show you right now, I'll show you later what it's supposed to look like. Alright. Let's take out our group of dice. Now, for a 4-player game, you'll play with all the dice. In a 3-player game, you'll take out a purple and a green, which is what I'm going to do. And you'll have to check in the book what you use in a 2-player game. So for right now, I'll just leave them here. Alright, next, we're going to take out our Voyage cards. These are the ones that go down here. Just give it a quick shuffle. And just display 1 on every single slot. Sorry if my cards are sleeved and it causes a glare. Alright. Next, we have 4 spots up there for influence tiles. Now, there's 2 sides to these. There's one for 4-player and one for 2 and a 3-player. Shuffle them according to the correct player count. So I'm playing 3 players. And then just randomly place them up there. We're going to take one disc of every player and put them on the bottom of each track. So you're going to need 4. 1, 2, 3. And 4. You're going to get another disc and you're going to put it on the 0 space of the point track up there. Alright, now let's lay out our cards. Okay, so they come in 3 stacks. You got the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s. Okay, so just like most games, you're going to shuffle the 2s and the 3s separately, and then you're just going to put the 2s on top of the 3s. Now the 1s are special. Those are the ones we're going to start the game with, so those don't get shuffled in the deck. And then we're going to fill up our upper city, middle city, central city, and lower city. So you're going to have 4 cards, 3 rows of 4 cards. So just start doing that. Okay, and now we gotta put out our initial crown tiles here. So the way this works is you're going to start with the upper right, working down and then to the left, and the first color you meet of each of these, you're going to lay that on the card. So just give you an example. We're going to start here. We're going to lay off this one, then we're going to put the pink one here. We're going to keep going. Green is the first one here, and gray we don't encounter till we hit here. So gray would go over here. All right, there you go. Let's go to our player board. Very simple. Give them a player board. They're going to have 2 cubes. You put them on the 7. That's where you start. Give them all the rest of their 20 circular discs there. This is their turn player marker, the lion. Then you have your pilgrim, which we're going to put in the game board very shortly. And you have 3 castle pieces to hold your dice. Alright. Alright, so that's mostly all the setup we need to do. There's one additional thing according to the player count. If you are not playing with 4 players, there are these markers you need to put out on the game board. Alright, because I'm playing 3, you need to put a 3, a 4, and a 3 here in the upper, middle, and lower. If you're playing 2, you add another 2 tokens. There's a 2 and a 5 that you also need to put in. Alright, before you start, there's a pre-draft for certain objects like cards and where your pilgrim's going to be. So for that, we're going to need to figure out turn order. So for just this example, let's make red first, blue second, yellow third. Alright, you're going to take your initial deck of 8 number 1 cards, give it a shuffle, and you're going to make 4 groups of 2 cards. If you're less than 4 players, they say make 3 groups of 2 cards, but honestly I always put out 4 groups of 2 cards. It'll give players better options of which groups to take. Alright, so now starting with yellow, they can either take one of the groups of cards or put their pilgrim on the board. Now, the importance of your pilgrim is because wherever you start, the initial movement is already dictated for you. So your first movement's going to have to be this way, for example. Or if you were here, it'd have to be this way. And obviously the cards, well, some cards are better than others. It'll tell you how far you go up on the tracks and what your initial abilities are going to be. All right, so let's just say yellow went first and took this. And then blue went next and took this. And let's say red went next and took this. Then red would go again, so it's a snake draft. You go up and then back down. So red would go here, blue would go here, and then yellow would go here. So there you go, we're done. But before you start, you have to set up your table and get your initial resources if there was a lightning bolt. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your two cards, and underneath the icons there's initial steps here. That's how far you're going to go up on the tracks. So I have 2 on the gray. I'm going to go up twice, and 1 on the purple. Okay, now we're going to go to our player board. So anything with a lightning bolt, you gain the resources right away every time, or the points during the game, and you're going to put it on the right hand side of your board. So this is 4 strength or shields. You're going to gain 4. Alright, and anything with a C, these are things that get activated during phase C of the game. So you're going to put this right over here. And there you go, you're ready to get started. Let's go to the rules before the playthrough on the next video. Alright, welcome to the rules section for Coimbra. So, before going into detail at a super high level, what are we doing? What is the main mechanic in this game? Well, we're going to be drafting dice. So every turn you're going to be drafting dice, placing your dice to buy new characters that'll raise your stats and move your pilgrim around the board. Alright, so those are the main mechanics. What you're trying to do is collect as many victory points as possible. Obviously it is a Euro, you're going to be tracking your points around the board over here. And there's many different ways to score. There's voyages you can go on, there's being on the top of every track, and there are cards that give you endgame scoring. There's also ways during the game to score a lot of points with a green track, and there's also pilgrimages over here which can score you many points. Alright, so the game lasts 4 rounds. How do you know that? Well, it's because the deck will run out after 4 rounds. There's exactly enough cards in here to refill this display 4 times. Alright, in each of those rounds you're going to do the same 6 steps or 6 phases, and those are all mentioned on your player board. It's very important to just follow this. So you have A, B, C, D, E, and F. So you're going to do that lineup of actions 4 times. After that you'll score, and it's all mentioned over here. That's the basic game flow. I will talk about the anatomy of a card before we go any further, because you sort of have to know what a card sort of represents, or else the rest of the instructions won't really matter. Alright, so looking at the anatomy of a card, there's some things you're going to have to take note of. Alright, so by drafting a card, one thing that you'll gain is right here is the sort of track that you're going to advance on when you take the card. So the number is how many ticks up the track you will go up. So let's say red drafted this card, they'll go up the gray track 1 time. Alright, these tracks sort of represent 2 things. At the end of the game, whoever is highest is going to score extra points. You're going to look up there. And also represents during the income phase, if you have a colored dice of that color, you're going to score where you are on that track. So by going up on the gray, whenever I would draft a gray die, I would get more guards as an income. Okay. The second thing that it gives you is the bottom section here. It can be multiple different things. It could be a card that slides under your tableau on, let's say, phase E for this one. So you just stack it under phase E, and during the income phase you'll get a special reward. It could be an end game card which all have exclamation points, like this one. Like this one. And those ones all go on this side. Or it could be a lightning bolt which trigger 1 time, and then you'll stack up all your cards over here. So lightning bolt like this one. Alright, so that's the anatomy of a card. So during phase 2, when you're sort of putting out your tokens, you sort of know what you're trying to get. Now I'm going to talk a bit about the pilgrimage action. So what are the rules about pilgrimage? Pilgrimaging, I think that's the verb. Whenever you move your pilgrim, you move along the lines on the map here. So your first one is pre-dictated for you. You have to follow the dotted line coming from your corner of the spot here. And you'll just move from dot to monastery. So let's say you had a movement of 5. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You follow the lines on the board. Every time you walk over a monastery or land on it, you will drop off one of your discs. Now, if the monastery has a lightning bolt on it, you trigger the benefit right away. If it doesn't, then it's probably just an endgame scoring token that you'll score at the end of the game. For example, both of these have lightning bolts on it. I would gain the benefit from both of these right away. Alright, so there's different ways in the game for you to go up. So every time you see a little man with a number in it, that means you're moving your pilgrim on the board. So you can gain it through income, through cards, through many different ways. Alright, so now let's go through every single phase here from A through F, and I'll go into detail on all the rules about them. Alright, the first phase every round is the first player is going to grab all the dice that you're playing with. So remember, this pool changes depending on the number of players. He's going to roll all the dice and roll them on the table. Alright, it's simple enough. Alright, the second phase every round is you're going to each draft 3 dice. So in player order and going down, you're going to draft 1 dice at a time until you've drafted 3 and placed them on the board. Alright, so before taking a die, I'm going to sort of tell you the repercussions of what happens when you take a die. Okay? So there's 2 things you need to look at. There's the color and the number. So the color is at the end of the round during the income, you're going to gain benefits based on the color of the die. So let's say at the end of the round, I would have drafted 2 yellow and 1 purple die. After that, at the end of the round, I'm going to look at this chart and I'm going to get 2 times what's in the yellow and 1 time where I'm at in the purple. So in this example here, just as an example, I'll gain 14 gold, 7 plus 7, and I'll just move my pilgrim 1 time because he still hasn't moved off the bottom. Alright, so that's how the color interacts with the game. Now the number, on the other hand, stands for 2 things. It's going to be the draft order when we're placing our dice in the city and in the castle up there, and it'll also be the price of what you're paying for the characters on the left. So yes, by getting a higher value, you'll get first pick of the characters out there and might get a better character, but then you are also paying a lot more for your characters if somebody just put a 2 or a 1 than somebody else who keeps putting 6s. Alright, so that's what the dice signify. So again, you get to draft 3 dice per turn. So starting with the first player, he's going to take his marker, he's going to take one of the dice, so let's say 5, and he's going to place it on the game board. So there's 2 different sections. There's the castle up here where the dice are placed in ascending order, and then there's the city. So the upper city, middle city, lower city, and these dice are in descending order. Okay. So the first dice that's played in a 4-player game can go anywhere. These tiles only appear because we're playing less than 4 players, so they act like neutral dice. So when you place your dice in, it always goes to the right of anything that's higher or lower in the city. So for example, my 5 can go to the front of the line in any of these 3 city spots because it's higher than any of these. So let's say I will go here. Now the next player might go, let's say it's blue, and let's say he drafted a 4 and he wants to go into the city. He's got 3 options. He can go to the front of the line here, you can go to the back of the line here, because remember, you always go to the right of anything that's higher or equal to, or you would go in the middle of the line here. So that's his options for the 4. Let's say he wanted to go there. Now the next player can take a 1 and basically be guaranteed to go to the end of the line in any of these spots. Okay, so that's how the placement works in the city. The castle up there works in the complete opposite direction. So let's say blue would have played a 3 up here. Then when red came along and played a 1, it would go to the front of the line. So there it's 1 through 6. So now the next player to play a 1, let's just say yellow played a 1, it would go actually here, because just like below in the city, it's everything to the left is equal to or lower. Alright, so the same values always go to the right. So those are the placement rules. Let's talk about the payment and drafting in phase C now. Alright, phase C is where we're actually going to be resolving all the dice and gaining benefits or paying for guys from the left hand side of this display over here. Alright, so this is not resolved in player order. For this phase, we're going to actually go from left to right and up down. Alright, so you're going to be going this way. Okay, when you encounter a player's dice, you'll basically ask him to look at the same row of either cards or castle pieces and either pay for them if they're characters or take one of the castle pieces that are available. Okay, so let's talk about the castle pieces first. So it's first come, first serve. So when you take one of these, it goes in front of you. Let's go through them one at a time. So this one just gives you a bonus of 7 guard or 7 money. So what you're going to do is just put this in front of you and either gain 7 guard or 7 money. So let's say in this example, I'll get 7 money. Alright, next. This tile here gives you 4 points right away. So you go up 4 points on the track. And it gives you this 3 pip upgrade tile. So I'll give you an example. This has to be placed right away as soon as you activate this castle piece. So if red would have drafted this, what he could do is place this on top of the 3 right over here, which now turns this into a 6. So he would change the order that's displayed in the central city here. When you draft the card here, you add up all the pips when you have to pay. So yes, you're going before, but it adds to the cost. So if you would put it on top of a 6, you would have to pay 9 coins or 9 shield according to what you want to draft. Alright, so that's how this works. This one here is pretty simple. You get 2 points and you'll get to move your pilgrim 3 steps on the map. And lastly, there's the Voyage castle piece here. This one lets you buy a Voyage right away at a discount of 2. And it also gives you a discount of 2 as well during phase F, which is to buy another Voyage. So you can get 2 Voyages that round instead of 1, and it gives you a discount of 2 on both. Alright, so let's put these back. So once the castle is resolved, you'll start resolving the city from left to right again. So when you encounter a player's piece, you gotta look at 2 things. A, the cost of the card is going to be the pip value of the dice that's being resolved. So yellow, by resolving this, will need to pay either coins or guards based on the pip value. So he pulled off a 4. So if you wanted this card here, it would cost him 4 guards. And if he wanted this card here, it would cost him 4 coins. So the cost, remember, is in the top left. So by paying, you just look at your player board here. So let's say this was yellow. And you just move the token down based on the cost. Alright, if you can't pay for anything there or there's no cards left, you always have the option to not to draw a card and to take 2 money and 2 guards. So you wouldn't draft anything, you just gain 2 on each track. So I already mentioned it during the overview, but when you draft a card, you sort of activate it right away. You're going to gain the benefit on the tracks immediately on the left here. So here I will gain on the yellow track, I will gain 3 steps. So let's say that was yellow, so go 1, 2, 3. Alright. And then the bottom part here tells you where it goes on your player board. So if it's a lightning bolt, you'll trigger it right away. If not, you'll put it on your player board. So let's say red drafted this card, so it would go here because E lines up here. If it would be a exclamation point, it would line up here for endgame scoring, and all your lightning bolts would go over here. Alright, don't forget, when you draft a card, some other ability during phase C might trigger. So here, for example, by drafting a gold card, when I draft a gold card, I will gain a gold and 2 points. Alright, so always look at your C. Right now we're in phase C. Alright, and you do that for all the dice. So let's say yellow would draft this, then the AI would draft a card, and then yellow would draft a card. So how does the AI draft a card? So if you're playing with less than 4 players, these tokens appear. The AI drafts the highest influence character available, and if there's a tie, the one to the left. So in this example here, there's a 3 and 2 1, so obviously we would draft this one. But let's say the 3 wasn't there, he would draft this one because there would be 2 1, so we would draft the one furthest to the left. Now, just a small note, if you do draft a card with a crown token on it, you just keep the crown token and it'll affect something on round D, which is changing the player order. But for right now, we'll just leave it there. Alright, so resolve, grab your cards, you pay for them, you gain the benefits, you go up the tracks, and then we go into the next phase. Alright, phase D is just about redoing the turn order. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to calculate all the crowns you picked up that round, plus the crowns on your current turn order marker here, and just reorder according to who had the most. So for example, if red had, here he had 4, plus 0 next to his name, and let's say he had 4, blue had 5, and yellow had 6, well then you just reorder everyone in from highest to lowest. Now if there are any ties, so let's put it back. If there are any ties, let's say yellow had 7, red had 4, and blue had 4, the ties, you just reverse the current order. So because yellow had the most, he'd go up, but because blue and red had the exact same amount, you just reverse the order. There you go. Alright, phase E is all about collecting income. So I already mentioned it, but now we'll go through it again step by step. Is you're going to look at the colors of the dice here. Alright, so in this example I have 2 gold and 1 gray. You're going to look at these tables and you're going to gain the benefits to where your markers currently are. So for example, if I had 2 gold, I would gain 14, 7 times 2, and 1 gray, I would gain another 7 guards here. Okay. Green is all about victory points, so if you're gaining green, you're just moving your marker around the board. If you're gaining purple, it's moving your pilgrim. You're going to move them around the map here and gain the benefits if you step over cities. We already talked about gold. You'll go up the gold track, and guards, you go up the guard track. Those are the 2 tracks up here. There's a hard limit of 20, so even if you gain 40 gold or guards, you still have to stay at 20. Now, very important, this phase can also have effects down here that might trigger. So all cards that you drafted previously that have an E could get triggered. For example, here, for every gold dice that I have, I get 2 coins. So just look at all your E cards and make sure you're triggering them properly. Finally, we get to phase F, which is buying a voyage. These cards down here. Voyages are all end game scoring cards. So you're going to score what's in the top right. So every round you can buy at most 1 voyage. And what you're going to do is you're going to pay the cost. The cost of a voyage is the number that's in the top left, and the resource you need is right above it. So all of these cost coins and all of these cost guards. You're going to just reduce it on your player board. When you do that, you just add your token to it. And multiple players can be on the same card or on different cards. You can be on one card only once, but other players can also be on that card, and there's no restriction. You don't have to pay more. That's it. All right. In a following turn, yellow can also play a token here, and you can play a token here. There's no cost difference in cost at all. Okay. Just keep it one small note: is if you did have this castle tile here, the cost is reduced by 2 when you place your token. Alright, after phase F, if you're not reached the end game, you have a small reset phase. Alright, so reset is what it sounds like. You're just going to take all the cards that are currently in the display and put it in the discard pile. And you're going to refresh it with a new 12 cards from the stack, 4 cards per row. After that, you're going to return everyone's castle piece. Don't forget to add the 3 pip upgrade back. Next, you're going to take everyone's dice back off their castles and add them back to the general supply. When you add your cards, don't forget to re-put in these extra crown pieces onto the cards. And there you go, you're done. Now, if you did reach the end game, I'm going to talk about the end game scoring now. So let's look at our player boards. So you have your current VP that you've gained during the game. All right. Then what you're going to do is you're going to score your voyages. So remember, all these tokens that you currently have on voyages, if you have your token on there, you're going to calculate what the card gives you. Alright, it could be variable for different players. After that, you're going to score the majorities on each track. So depending on who's the leader on each track, you're going to gain the amount of victory points on the tile. So if you're playing a 4-player game, the top player gets 10, then 6, then 3. You're going to look at each column, they're going to be different values. So for example, here in the gold, it was 16 instead of 10. See, second place is going to get the second place value, and the third place is going to get the third place value. In a 3-player game, these are turned around, and only first and second are going to score points. After that, you're going to score your own endgame cards. So you might have collected some endgame scoring cards with the exclamation point over here. After that, you're going to score your certificates. That's something I never mentioned at all during the game, but certain cards have certificates down here in the left underneath the number. All right, there are 5 different colored certificates, and what you're going to do is for every set or unique colors, you're going to score the points here. So if you manage to get all 5 colors in all your groups of cards, you're going to get 12 points. Alright, you can score multiple sets. So let's say you had 5 unique and then you had 3 unique after that. You'll score 12 plus 4. Alright, you're going to look at all the cards in your tableau for that. Lastly, you're going to do one final scoring. You're going to tally up all your crowns plus guards plus money, divided by 2, and that'll give you some extra points. You'll tally that all up on the track, you figure out who has the most, and that's the winner of the game. Alright, that's it. Click on the link below for the playthrough. If not, I'll see you on the next one.